GZ, what's up? So fun to be with you tonight. It's February. That means we're having baptisms at Brook this weekend. That's why there's a giant pool behind me. I know some of you have pools at your campus also, but some of you don't, so that's what that is, a pool for baptism. But it is February, and you guys know what holiday falls in February? That's right, you guys. It's Valentine's Day, and I have always been a huge fan of Valentine's Day. Hang with me on this, don't hate. When I was a little kid, my mom used to make Valentine's Day very special, okay? She would make the special breakfast. We'd get up, we'd come downstairs for Christmas morning. And there'd be heart pancakes, and she'd always buy a little present for us for Valentine's Day, and I loved that. And so it just became a thing for me that I loved it. In high school, I started throwing Valentine's parties for my friends. I still throw Valentine's parties for my friends. Just a thing. I love Valentine's Day. And so right around this time of year, I love going to the one spot, you know, that part of Target where you can buy stuff kind of cheap, $1 or $3 or whatever. I just wanted to peruse to see if there was anything good, any Valentine goodie that I needed to have this year. And this year, I hit the jackpot of Valentine goodies, okay? So I purchased something from there that I believe every girl at Ground Zero needs to have in her collection, and I brought them with me today. Some socks. They say, fries before guys. Ladies, am I right? Am I right? Guys, let me say, okay, guys, you are awesome. You are awesome. But come on, we're talking about French fries, people. That's just hilarious. I own these socks, fries before guys. You should get them. Okay, so I hid my socks inside my Bible. Do you guys like that? Okay, so besides Valentine's Day, I wanted to talk about that tonight. But besides Valentine's Day, I also wanted to dive in tonight back into our series that is called Different. Last week, we learned this truth, that God created us to be different, and that's a good thing. So, for instance, if everybody in your life was doing this thing that you're going to see on the side screens, this, okay, you would be the one standing on the edge hey, wait a second, is this really what we should be doing? Let's think about this. You're I want to do it. That is one huge benefit to following Jesus. It's sort of it's a way to be set apart from everybody else, to be courageous and different, and to be the one who is leading your friends away from giant cliffs instead of towards them. You guys, it's figurative language, giant cliffs, bad things. Got it? I know you're getting it. Okay, so there's a book in the Bible, Romans, and we read from it last week, and we're going to read again today. This Chapter 12, verse 2, that just kind of explains this concept really well about how God created us to be different and how that's good. So let's read it together. In Romans 12:2, it says, "Don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. And then you will learn what God's will is for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect." Now, this concept is pretty cool. The idea of not following what everybody else is doing and being set apart to be what God wants you to be, right? But maybe after you left here last week, you had a few more questions. Maybe your question was, if it's so cool to be different and follow Jesus, why don't more people do it? Why don't more people follow Jesus? Or maybe your question was just I would like to follow Jesus, but I'm not really sure about being different from everybody else. I'd rather sort of go with the crowd. Or maybe some of you are hesitating to follow Jesus because you still have questions that you need answered. And if that's you, then you are not alone. I remember being a junior in high school when I got invited to go to an event called See You at the Pole. Have you guys heard of this before? Okay, so it existed back then and it still exists now, but here's the deal. So basically, a few weeks into school, in September, on a Wednesday morning, the event is that you go 30 minutes early to school and meet up with other people who are followers of Jesus and pray at the pole. That's the idea. My youth pastor encouraged me to go, and I wanted to go, but I was afraid. I did not want to be the only one who showed up at the pole that particular day. But then my alarm went off early, and I got up miraculously, and I got in my car, and I drove to school, and I was there 30 minutes early. And thankfully, when I walked up to the pool, there were like 5 or 6 other people already there. And I was like, yes, okay. And I got up there, and I like met some people I didn't know before, and it was really actually pretty cool. And we talked for a while, and then we prayed together. We like held hands around the pole, and we prayed for our friends, and we prayed for our teachers, and we even prayed for our whole nation. And I was really glad that I went. But about a week after that, I got a handwritten letter from one of the 9th grade girls who was at the pool with me that day. And the letter was a really heartfelt letter where she wrote to me that she was feeling very alone in her faith. She's like, honestly, before going to the pool, I didn't know if anybody else believed in Jesus in this whole school besides me. She said, even at my confirmation class at church, I feel like I'm the only one who really believes in and wants to follow Jesus. And so she wanted to ask me some more questions about what it's like to follow Jesus and feel like pretty lonely in it. And to be honest, I wasn't really very surprised to get her letter, because even back then I knew that this was true, that it's different to believe in Jesus, that there's a lot of people who hesitate to place their faith in Jesus. And maybe some of you believe pretty strongly in Jesus and really want to follow after him, but you feel lonely. It's like, am I the only one in my school? Am I only one on my sports teams? Like, maybe you don't feel lonely here at Ground Zero, but there's a lot of other places that you probably hang where there's a lot of people who don't want to follow Jesus. And that makes a lot of sense, because it is different to follow Jesus. It's different from most people in the world. And there's 2 reasons why I think it's different, and here's the first one. People are not sure if God is real or not. They are not completely sure. It is difficult to believe in something that you can't touch or see or have a conversation with in an audible voice. And so people have a hard time believing that there is a God who loves them and wants to have a relationship with them. Also, when I was in high school, I was in an AP literature class, Advanced Placement Lit, okay? And while I was in the class, my teacher, who did not believe in God, decided one day to bring up the idea of faith. And he challenged us. He was like, no one can really know if God is real, and so it is basically not smart to believe in God. And he's like, I dare you to put your hand in the air if you can prove to me that you believe that God is real. And I'm like, oh man. It's just one of those moments where your heart is pounding. I'm looking around, is anyone gonna put their hand up in the air? And I definitely hesitated, you guys. But then I just had to, right? I just threw my hand in the air. And he's like, what? He's yelling at me. He's like, what? He's like, you might have faith that God is real, but you can't know that God is real. And I was pretty stubborn, you guys. I was like, actually, yes, I can. I can know that God is real. He's like, you cannot. And he's trying to prove it. And I said, listen, my own experience and when I see God's creation proves to me that God is real. And so I am sure that God is real. And he kept trying to talk me down throughout the class. Like, you can't believe that. It's faith and it's not true. And he just was going on and on. Actually, by the end of the class, and this is absolutely true, he was beating his head against the chalkboard in the back of the classroom because I would not give in. And then the bell rang, thankfully. What I was trying to explain to him, I wasn't doing a very good job. I will try to explain to you tonight, okay? I think that you can believe and know that God is real because of experience and creation. Let's tackle experience first. So I have had tons and tons and tons of experiences that prove to me that God is real. Some of them have been very simple experiences where I pick up my Bible to read it on any given day, and let's say I'm reading from the book of James, and what I read in my Bible directly is affecting something that I'm going through at that very moment in time. That happens to me all the time, and that is proof to me that God is real. Other times, the proof is much bigger. I remember I was leading a trip for a group of people at a church I worked at. It was a little church, and there were about 28, I think, of us going on this trip. We had to raise $54,000, and we had a few months to do it. And in the history of the church, they had never raised that much money for anything at all, and they just didn't think we could do it. No one believed that we could do it. And so we threw like a spaghetti fundraiser and a car wash, and we sent out some letters asking for donations. And within that time frame, God brought in $56,000. He was sort of like, you think I can't bring it in? Let me bring in a couple more thousand for you. Yeah, you could totally clap. It was absolutely insane, actually. Or the 2 times when doctors have told me that I had, incurable medical conditions. One time I was losing my eyesight. Another time was recent that I've told you about, that I had a headache that did not go away. And both times, God found a way to heal me when medicine couldn't do anything for me. But it's not just my own experiences that prove to me that God is real. It's other people's experiences too. It's my friend Rachel that I told you about last week, who was addicted to drugs and bad relationships until she came into a relationship with Jesus, and everything changed in her life for the better. It's my boss, Aaron, whose mom had a terrible disease called MS, and they both placed their faith in Jesus, and that gave them hope even after she passed away from her disease. It's my parents. My dad, he was sick of the party life in college. And he got on his knees one night. I love hearing him tell the story. He got on his knees by his bed one night and just said, God, there has to be more than this. Like, tell me what to do. Show me what to do. A few weeks later, he met my mom, and she introduced him to faith in Jesus. He didn't waste any time after that. 3 weeks later, he proposed. And they have been married and living a life following Jesus ever since then. In my lifetime, I have heard thousands of stories like this, of people's lives being totally transformed by Jesus. And that is why I am 100% sure that God is real. My experiences and the experiences of other people around me. But there's another reason that I am sure that God is real, and that's creation. I want to read to you another verse from the book of Romans. It says this, for since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse. Now, there's a lot of big words in this verse, but let me just break it down for you. It says that we can clearly see that God is real from what has been made. So God's world, the world that he created, has tons of clues that show us that God is real. I was holding an orange in my hand at lunch just a few days ago. And I was thinking about this concept of God creating an orange. And I thought, man, this little fruit is packed with vitamins that we need. It grows on a tree. It is easily packaged in like a little peel that you just take off, and then inside the fruit is clean for you to eat. And if you think about that for a second, it will totally blow your mind that somebody so great would create oranges. Another thing in the world that points me to God being real is sea creatures. You know about these things? Have you seen the sea creatures? Look at this. Seahorse. Those things are amazing. Sharks. Those are scary. Seahorse, sharks. What's the other one? Oh, those stingrays. I've been swimming with those before. They're scary and slimy. Those men of war, also known as jellyfish, or they're similar, right? These sea creatures are like those little amoeba things that go in the water, the little plankton or whatever, that all the creatures they feed on. If you think about that for a second, like all of these creatures are intricately designed and complex and perfectly made for the oceans that they live in. You guys, the sea creatures, they point me to the existence of God. So, there are reasons that you could have that could prove to you that God is for sure real, but many people hesitate to believe that God is real, and that is why it's different for us to believe in Jesus. But there's another reason why it's different for us to believe in Jesus, and that is that people are afraid of the unknown. Now, you probably saw that they brought out this giant black curtain for me. Now, this is what I want to present to you, okay? So I think a lot of people are hanging out in life on this side of the curtain, and they are happy with their life, or maybe there's like ups and downs with their life, but they just think that's what life is about, and they're not following Jesus, and it's fine, okay? And then some of their friends make a decision to follow Jesus, and they go over to the other side, okay? And they're hanging out over here, and they're saying to their friends, it's better over here. Like, I've been forgiven of all of my sin, and I feel this weird sense of peace. And when I face problems, I go to the God who created me, and he helps me to know what to do. And it's really good over here, and you should come. But then the people are over here, and they're like, I can't see what's over there. And I think it's okay. Like right now, when I screw up, when I mess up, it's on me and I have to fix it. And so far that's been working for me. And like if I go over there, I feel like I'm relinquishing control and I can't see what's over there. And I'm unsure. And so people choose this instead. They say, I'm just going to stay here. I'm unsure of what's over there. That unknown. And I'd rather stay here than take a risk and make a decision to follow Jesus. You guys, if you think that it is different to follow Jesus, that people in general are hesitant to follow him, then you are right. And there's two reasons that people are hesitant to believe in Jesus. The two reasons are that people aren't sure God is real, and people are afraid of the unknown. So what should we do with this, okay? Tonight, I know that there are people at all the campuses who fall in all different categories when it comes to faith in Jesus. Some of you are following hard after Jesus, and you love him, and he's a big part of your life. Others of you are still deciding, like, what do I want to do with this whole idea of faith in Jesus? Some of you are not there yet. You're just checking this whole thing out. No matter where you are in your faith in Jesus, first, you're welcome here, and I hope you come back every single week. And secondly, this challenge is for you tonight. This is what we want you to do. Oh, one more. Wrestle with the reasons, okay? We have learned tonight that it is different to believe in Jesus, and that many people struggle with believing in him because of these two reasons that we're going to put up. People aren't sure God is real, and people are afraid of the unknown. And so no matter where you're at in your faith right now, I think it is important for all of us to wrestle with these reasons and to think about it. I want you to know why you believe what you believe. And I want you to stand firm in that faith when you decide that you're going to follow Jesus. So just think about this for a minute this week. Write it out in like on a piece of paper or in a journal and just say like, am I sure that God is real? Are there experiences in my life that I have had that lead me to believe that God is real? Or have I heard of other people's experiences about following Jesus and him changing their life that lead me to believe that God is real? Or have you seen things in creation that are difficult to explain without just falling to your knees and believing that God created them? Or if you haven't, let's say you haven't had any experiences that lead you to believe in God. Or you haven't seen anything in creation that leads you to believe that God is real. Could you look for that this week? Could you like just open up your eyes a little and say like, hey, let me just look around for a minute and see if anything that I see might lead me to believe that God is real? Or could you just listen to the stories of people who are following Jesus and who are interacting with him on a regular basis and listen to their experiences to see if God might be real? And then that idea of people being afraid of the unknown. If you aren't following Jesus yet, could you ask yourself the question like, is fear holding me back? Is that the thing? Am I afraid of the unknown? Am I afraid of taking a risk? And is that what's holding me back to being a follower of Jesus? And if you are following Jesus, could you think about like how you talk about life on this side of the curtain? Could you talk about it in a way that would make sense to your friends who are on the other side so that they could possibly be willing to take that risk and cross over to the other side? What we want you to do this week, very simple, is to wrestle with the reasons. Can you throw that up there one more time? We want you to wrestle with the reasons of why people are hesitant to follow Jesus so that you can make a decision. If you want to be different, and you want to place your faith in Jesus, then that wrestling might lead you to that. Or if you're already following Jesus, it might just affirm and confirm how awesome it is for you to be following Jesus. And then come back next week, you guys, because we're going to talk a ton more about what it means to live differently. And don't forget, one more thing, very important, everyone, fries before guys. Don't forget. All right, you guys are off. See you. Have fun at hang time. Bye.